Welcome to Fraser 365. I'm Chris Montgomery, and today we're taking a look at the minor prophets of the Old Testament and asking God to speak to us through His Word. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to day 43 of the Minor Prophets. Today we start our study of Habakkuk with the devotion titled Wrestling with Questions. Elizabeth Elliot once wrote, "Waiting on God requires the willingness to bear uncertainty, to carry within oneself the unanswered question, lifting the heart to God about it whenever it intrudes upon one's thoughts." Our text for today is from Habakkuk chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. The oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. Habakkuk ministered during the same time as Nahum, Zephaniah, and Jeremiah, during the reigns of Josiah from 640 to 609 BC and Jehoiakim from 609 to 598 BC. The Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar were now the world power. Jeremiah recently announced that Babylon would invade Judah, destroy Jerusalem and the temple, and the nation would be carried away into exile. Habakkuk's prophecies took place shortly before Judah was captured. Habakkuk, whose name means to wrestle or to embrace, is having a difficult time understanding why God would use a wicked nation like Babylon to discipline His own nation of Judah. The first part of Habakkuk shows the prophet wrestling with God's actions, while the second part deals with his embrace of God's promises. Habakkuk begins with 4 questions born out of desperation and despair. Many believers have wrestled with the question, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Sometimes our circumstances can be so severe that we mistake God's silence for the false notion that He doesn't hear our prayers. Nothing could be further from the truth, but our feelings sometimes trump our faith. Then Habakkuk asks, how long shall I cry, violence, and you will not save? At other times, it appears that wicked people are getting away with evil, and God does not respond as quickly as we would like. While the prophet's first question concerns God's presence, the second focuses on His timing. In certain seasons of life, our hurts can be so painful that we complain about God's reaction time, even though we know in our hearts that His timing is always perfect. Habakkuk's final 2 questions are connected. Why do you make me see iniquity? And why do you idly look at wrong? Those are both from verse 3. The prophet is struggling with the fact that he cannot unsee all the wickedness around him while feeling that God somehow doesn't take it as seriously as he does. This misconception of Habakkuk stems from his overwhelming emotions that have clouded the truth. Al Fuhr and Gary Yates share the following insight into Habakkuk's complaints. In times of trouble, it is easy to question God. This is not just the common experience of today's Christians. The saints of old often struggled with what they perceived as an offense or a blind spot in the eyes of divine justice. When righteous people get what the wicked deserve, while the wicked go unpunished, Wise men are perplexed, and the godly are offended. You can see Ecclesiastes 8:14 and Psalm 73 for more info on that. When God seems distant, his people cry out, but he is often silent, reassurance coming only through the memory of his past activity. You can see Psalm 77. The prophets, like the sages and psalmists of their day, wrestled with the justice of God in a world gone mad. Habakkuk is the one book that most directly bridges the gap between the psalmist and the prophet, the sage and the seer. He cries out to God with an honest complaint. The dialogue of Habakkuk reveals a journey of faith, moving the prophet to a place where he can delight in the mysterious ways of the Lord, even when he does not fully comprehend. The journey of the prophet Habakkuk is set within a distant context, but one that is close to the heart of every believer. In this book, the reader is invited to join the prophet in discovering a God who works in ways difficult to understand, yet wonderful to behold. Habakkuk follows his 4 questions with statements of his struggle. He feels that justice will never come to the wicked and that God will never intervene. Habakkuk says what most people have felt but are afraid to express. While his perception of God is in error, at least he is honest before God. Perhaps Habakkuk could teach us not only that God can handle our complaints, but also that sharing our honest emotions with him has a way of leading us back to the truth. Some questions to consider. In what ways do you lose sight of God's goodness amid difficult times? How can your honest questions open the door for God's comfort and healing? And finally, what does Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 and 8 teach us about questioning God? From the ESV, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks, it will be opened. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.